It would be unprecedented if it is, in fact, an ICBM, because this would be the first time that basically this has been developed with the technology to carry a nuclear payload. So let's go to Russia and Ukraine. And we're getting some updates right now.
We'll get
a little bit of a change.
Okay, we're fine.
So this is something I want to, and before we get to Mr. Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports and David Hogg, is it Rasmussen Reports or Rasmussen Polls? Because I want to make sure that I get it right. But this guy is the head honcho over there. He really knows what he's doing. Before we get to that, Russia, Ukraine. Okay. There's a lot going on. We're going to give you the timeline because I don't believe we discussed this a ton yesterday. We gave you a pretty thorough rundown Tuesday. A lot has happened since Tuesday. We'll go through that timeline. But let me tell you what I think is most interesting here, okay, is that Putin, according to Reuters, has said that he would be open to a ceasefire talk or de-escalations, but only if the conversation takes place with Donald Trump. So we'll go through what has led us to that point and what that means. It's time for Insane in Ukraine.
Insane of the Ukraine. Insane of the Ukraine.
All right. It's good. It's a good singer. Good.
Why do people say the Ukraine?
Well, it used to be the Ukraine. Now it's Ukraine, I believe.
Oh, I see.
Wait a minute. I don't think it was ever the.
No, I know. People just used to say it was okay,
yeah.
and now it's not okay.
It's like, go to the Facebook. No.
You can still say it.
No,
That's
you
fine.
can't.
Yeah. It's technically Ukraine, but I'll accept both. So let's go through everything that happened since Tuesday. Ukraine launched those ATACMS as the abbreviation.
Attackams. You got to say, we got cool
ATACMS missiles to Russia, right, for the first time. Putin did say that in September that would be a dramatic escalation. Okay, here's another. We'll just go through the order. That's one. Two, Russia updated its nuclear doctrine after that, lowering the threshold for using nukes. Okay, so that's basically saying like we may look, we're changing this. We're maybe, and I wrote this on my longest table. We may now use nukes. We don't know. I don't want to smack you.
Really quick, people making a big deal out of this. They made it public. This has pretty much been somewhat the policy they've had for a while. This is for show.
Right. But I just want to make sure that no one feels like we've left anything out. All the references available, link in the sidebar, as we do every show. So then on Wednesday, Ukraine launched long-range British Storm Shadow missiles.
That's a cool name too.
Into Russia for the first time. Really cool names for the
Storm Shadow.
You got to have cool names for a missile. You can't have a weird. You can't.
Yeah.
The Phalange. It's not a good missile name.
No. Like, get prepared to be buried by salami sandwich.
That's actually a cool name.
It actually would be, wouldn't it?
Don't forget your pepperoncinis.
Yeah.
I think it's cloudy with a chance of death. And the meatballs. I like it.
Yeah, well.
Not everything from West is better. So, number 4, this is this morning. A pretty significant escalation may have happened when Russia reportedly, and you can give me an update.
Reportedly is fine. So there's some debate right now. Ukrainian officials are saying it was an ICBM, and there's an unnamed Western official, is what it was just appearing on CNN, said it was not an ICBM that was launched. So
unnamed Western official?
Thanks.
Well, that does matter because let's say if Ukraine is lying, then they're lying about something that would be a very serious escalation.
Correct.
If it is an ICBM missile, and this is why people are mistrusting of both sides. Like I said, I've said in the past, I have no love or sympathy for Putin. I think he actually is a totalitarian prick. But both countries are very, very, very corrupt. Ukraine was one of, if not the, money laundering capitals of the world before this, depending on the year. And of course, Russia is as Russia does. So we don't know who's telling the truth. But Ukraine saying ICBM, okay. Other reports saying no, it wasn't. But there was, we do know, some kind of a missile fired at Dnipro.
Ukraine says that Russia fired an intercontinental ballistic missile at a central city in Ukraine. It'd be the first use of an ICBM in combat since its development in the Cold War.
If it's confirmed, it shows that both sides are starting to up their tactics in the sort of run up to when Donald Trump is going to move into the White House. And I think that you're seeing an understanding that if there is going to be any kind of a conversation down the line about a ceasefire or some kind of broader settlement, each side wants to have the best possible negotiating position. They want to be in the strongest possible place.
And just because it's really cool, here's a reported look at
scary
ICBM or not, the re-entry. Looks like Stranger Things. Now,
Yeah.
Terrifying.
the reason that this is pivotal, and hopefully we can get some updates while we're here, because we don't know what's true. Two sides are giving us two different stories here, Ukraine and then the Western official. It would be unprecedented if it is, in fact, an ICBM, because this would be the first time that basically this has been developed, the technology to carry a nuclear payload, right? It can travel up to, I believe, 18,000 miles per hour.
When they're coming down 18,000, like, good luck stopping that.
18,000 miles per hour.
Not sure the Iron Dome would.
Very, very difficult to intercept.
Yeah.
And so that's the update. I get that it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, it is kind of complicated,
Yeah,
but I can simplify all this conflict for you guys,
Oh, yeah?
if you don't mind. All right, so the kangaroo's like Russia, right? And they're holding on to Ukraine's land. That's the dog. And then Ukraine runs over like, hey, let go of my land, dog. Let go. And then Russia's like, what are you gonna do about it? And then Ukraine's like, pow, that's what I'm gonna do about it. And hit you and go back. And then Russia's like, oh yeah? Oh yeah, all right, watch me then. Watch me, I'm gonna go get my nukes. And Ukraine's like, psh, no, you won't. You won't do it.
And honestly, sometimes you just need to take a bird's eye view. That is probably the most accurate distillation of what's going on there.
Yeah, they call me the
thing. So
Just full of Biden? What's
Simple Jack. They call me the great philosopher.
yes, they do.
Yeah, they
not.
Hey, by the way.
So this brings us to what I think is very interesting here. According to Reuters, I believe this was released last evening, and it was trending everywhere. Putin has said that he is open to peace negotiations, but only with Trump. So, why is that so funny?
Because like he's gonna negotiate with Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like he'll forget whatever we talked about.
Guy's sleeping.
He's there for 2 more
Hello,
months.
Joe. Somebody wake up Joe.
So here's what the Kremlin is proposing, okay? To freeze the conflict at the current front lines, okay? To divide control, and this is the pivotal one that, it's very broad, so we'll have to know how this plays out. Divide control of the 4 eastern regions. That Ukraine abandons all plans to join NATO. And then they're going to be asking, most likely, that Ukraine limits the size of their military. And they do, again, this is all just sort of reportedly, they want to ensure unrestricted use of the Russian language in these areas of Ukraine, which, look, again, I feel like you always say, don't absolutely despise Putin. Yep, absolutely. But the fact is, that right there tells you there are enough ethnic Russians in areas of Ukraine who, if they were living under the oppressive rule of punishment for language use, I know this because I was raised in Quebec. It's an English country, but in Quebec, they have French language laws. They actually have the language police where you can be fined, your business can be shut down if the French writing is not, I think it's now at 2.5 times the size of your English writing, even if you're in an English city with mostly English customers. Because I had one parent born, not two moms.
Wow.
My mom was born in Quebec. If you have one parent, even an English-speaking parent born in Quebec, you have to go to French school. They thought I was slow. They switched me to English school later on. Turns out I was still slow. But I had an English-American father and one Canadian mother. And that law was, okay, you have to go to French school. So it is something that you will have people in that region going, hey, look, we do feel oppressed. And that tells you that it's not just Putin who's been orchestrating the protests and the rebellion, that there are people there enough for it to be a problem. These do outline some terms. Some of these are reasonable.
Yeah.
Some of them may not be. But it's important to note, like I've said, this conflict, it only ends with some kind of a compromise.
Right.
Or the complete devastation of one of these countries. There really is no in between. And that compromise is where you just have to pick the compromise that you're willing to live with. And the issue here is Ukraine has been turning down compromise after compromise. But they basically said no compromise whatsoever. I'm not saying the offers that have been made are necessarily legitimate or one that should be taken, but Ukraine has made it quite clear they won't take any. And why would you if you have a never-ending supply of funding? That does not create a scenario for peaceful talks, and maybe that's why Zelensky said that he actually believes that Donald Trump could help end the war.
Тому я вважаю, що війна
I believe that the war will end, and it will not end in the abstract, but there's no exact date. However, the war will end faster with the policy of the team that will now lead the White House. This is their approach, their promise to their society, and it is also very important to them.
So you said you had a
so
brief
small update. So the only thing that we'll say is that Russia has not come out and denied that this is an ICBM right now. So we're scouring kind of that, like that Russia basically, I don't even know if they would though. That's my only problem with this, because let's say that you didn't fire an ICBM, right? They had multiple re-entry vehicles. Obviously you could see the different, kind of explosions or lights. If I was Russia, I'd be like, yeah, we did it. Did we do it? It doesn't matter.
Right.
Well, they don't have to say anything. An unnamed Western source
Right.
already said, no, it was not the ICBM. Do not worry.
No, I don't. I really don't know what to believe on that. Other than I would believe the reporting initially and say, okay, if Russia's not denying it, that maybe it really was. Here's the thing, though. There is escalation going on,
of course,
and we're not to whatever 1,010 days ago. Sorry, we're almost, this giant, almost like going on 3 years into a war.
Yeah.
So we can't just turn back the clock. You're right. It has to be a negotiated settlement. People want to act, and I get it. You want to kick out an invader. I totally understand. If Mexico invaded, Texas, I feel the exact same way. It'll never happen, though. But that's, I know.
Oh my God!
I would feel the
Just
same way.
Imagine the terror. Yeah. All the gun-toting Texans against the army of weed whackers.
Oh, I know. We'd take
All
care
the
of them
gun-toting
yet again.
Mexican-American Texans.
Yes, exactly.
We beat them when we weren't even a part of the nation. Anyway, so nonetheless, I understand that people want that, but that's not where we are.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry to say that, but that is not where we are. And it's not like we haven't had these ethnic groups in other countries get kind of tied into a country after some kind of a conflict in the past. This has happened multiple times, a lot of times in Europe.
Well, there's a lot that we don't know. There is one thing, though, that I know for certain, and I want you to hold me to this. I can tell you exactly what the left is going to do with an incoming Trump administration dealing with this conflict. It's time for a prediction.
Wish is granted.
All right, call me to the mat if I'm wrong. Remember, this election was Donald Trump, World War III. That's what the left said. Democracy is at stake. He's a Putin puppet. So here's the thing. It's very clear that Putin doesn't want to talk or negotiate with Biden. He doesn't respect him. Now, for all of Putin's flaws, okay, and there are many flaws, he does revile a lot of the West for the same reason that the West reviles Putin. So here's what I think really bothers him, and he's communicated this a few times, where people go, hey, this is a guy, all of his financial gain is ill-gotten, right? You don't become a billionaire like that when your people are still oppressed. Like, this is not honest. This is corruption. And what he's doing is going, yes, but you too. That's the Bidens are not. So he doesn't have a problem with, I should say, I don't think he's as bothered by being accused of corruption, where he goes, yeah, but you're basically oligarchs in the West too. It's an entirely corrupt system. He has said that there is a swamp. There is an establishment in D.C. And he doesn't believe that Donald Trump, he believes that Donald Trump is uniquely not a part of it. And you know what? You believe that too, even those on the left, because you said that he was a maverick. You said that he would go rogue. You said that he was unpredictable. Well, that's something that I think other dictators kind of see as a positive in the sense that they can negotiate with someone. I believe that Putin thinks if he sits down with Biden, if he sits down with Harris, it doesn't matter what they say. They're just going to line the pockets of defense contractors no matter what, and so it's a fruitless endeavor. So he's clearly not going to do anything significant with Biden. He clearly is hoping for something better with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump comes in and this conflict de-escalates, or my God, if there actually is a ceasefire, the same people who said that he would bring us World War III, I guarantee you will say, see, he's a puppet for Putin. If there's any kind of a compromise, which we all know there has to be a compromise for there to be peace. Ukraine will not be happy with everything, neither will Russia. The left will accuse Donald Trump of being a puppet for Putin if any land is conceded, if any concessions are allowed.
Right.
They will say, look, this is a man who does the strong arming of dictators. He's just as bad as them. Keep in mind, they said that Donald Trump was going to bring us World War III. Those same people will then condemn Donald Trump for effectively avoiding World War III in a way that the Democrat establishment couldn't. Call me. Call me to the mat on that. I guarantee you that's what will happen if we end up with some kind of a peace agreement.
Yeah, and I think it's plain to see. Now, there have been some people that have gone over to Russia and have done a very bad job of representing the United States interests, and they've looked like a little bit of a puppet for Russia in some ways. But they were called a puppet before they went.
Right.
So I don't believe the argument as well from the left. You can point out specific actions and say doing this specific thing. You know, like I hated when Tucker Carlson was like, these groceries are great and this train station. Yeah, they've got great train stations in North Korea too, if they show you the right ones. Okay. Right. Like I'm not saying like the entire country is going to be like that. Okay. So maybe you should know better than to go and extol the virtues of what the country is doing. Now, the problem is they were calling Tucker a plant for Russia before he went.
Right.
Like, it used to be the policy that when you have enemies, when you have global players that could potentially get out of control and do some crazy things and throw world order out of whack to the point where wars start all over the place, you talk to them.
Yeah.
You make sure that you understand where they're coming from. You try to get a good picture. Even if you disagree, you try to understand where they're coming from so that you can help diffuse the situation or mitigate the damage. Not anymore.
No, what we are living through right now is McCarthyism with no basis in fact. A lot of people don't realize that McCarthy was right. There were communists, right? History has proven him to be right. He may have been bombastic. People didn't like to work with him, but he was right about communists and communist sympathizers infiltrating our institutions, largely media, Hollywood, and education. He was right about that. In this case, it's McCarthyism where they just go, oh, you must be a puppet for Putin. Oh, you must be a Russian spy.
It's the worst parts of McCarthyism.
And there's no basis in fact. If you just look at this reasonably and pragmatically and go, look, do we want destruction? Do we want nuclear war? Or is there some kind of a compromise that needs to be made here? They will accuse Donald Trump of being a puppet for Putin if peace is struck. That's where he is. Damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because my God, imagine Donald Trump comes in, this guy who's the dictator, this guy who's going to destroy democracy, and he ends a conflict and saves Americans hundreds of billions of dollars. They've got to find a way to vilify him. It must be that him and Putin are hand in hand. Hey, if you like this video, you want to see more, you can hit the notification bell to know when more videos are up, or just watch weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. We live stream. It's actually live where we interact with you. And we are so happy to be here with you because it's a known fact that content creators online are the happiest among us.